I'm Ben.
And I'm Penny.
I'm Karen.
And I'm Randy.
And this is The Cast of Us, episode 532.
This episode, we're covering the season finale of The Walking Dead, Dead City, Season 1, Episode 6, Doma Smo.
Season finale, not series finale, as we now know.
Very exciting news.
But we will get to that a little bit later in the news segment. We got a 4-person show tonight, which I'm excited for. Karen and Randy, welcome back. And Penny, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for the bookend. I'm excited.
Well, you all have some pretty big shoes to fill because originally the plan was Jason was supposed to come on.
Yep.
But Jason got a little tired of the series by episode 3. And I don't think he's watched past it.
Well, the three of us maybe equal one Jason, so
Maybe.
No, you can throw me in there too.
Yeah.
Maybe the 4 of us equal one Jason. But I said before we started recording, it's a little bittersweet because this will be my final episode hosting The Cast of Us for a while. And it's up in the air as to when I'll be back. It's either going to be season 2 of Dead City or season 2 of The Last of Us. And because we don't know which one is going to be first at this point with all the strikes happening and such. But I don't care. They're both 2 amazing shows. And I'm including this one.
Okay. A final thought there.
Yeah.
I definitely have notes. But this is going to be formatted a little bit differently because this is a 4-person show. Jason has done this in the past as well. I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a step back, and our points for this episode are going to be on the 3 of you, meaning you're going to present them. I'll chime in with my notes, but you guys are kind of going to take the lead on the points and the notes in this episode. But before we get into that, Penny, what have been your overall thoughts, excluding this episode, what have been your overall thoughts on the series so far?
I would start by saying that it's definitely entertaining, right? Like, there are some other shows in this universe that aren't even worth watching, like, just even if there's nothing else on.
Fair.
But I would.
Sorry.
But from the beginning, I thought this was really, kind of fun. New York City is really fun to see in a post-apocalyptic setting. They have a lot of really cool elements. Like, I hope the zip lines come back in season 2 because I love the zip lines. I thought that Negan's character arc was kind of weird and all over the place and plot driven. It's better now. I thought it, like, this final episode really cleaned up some of the writing. And I had thought all along that Maggie was, like, really one note. And then there were these, like, moments of a personality in there. And now this is kind of cool because what we know from this final episode makes me think about the first 5 episodes differently.
Yeah.
And I see things in Maggie's performance that I didn't see before. That I really like. This happened to me with World Beyond too. Like, I thought this one actor was just, like, awful and wooden and strange, and then there was a reason for it, and then it like blew my mind, and I had to go back and watch again because I was like, oh no, she's doing something that I didn't understand before. And I think that was the same with Maggie. So now I like the show a lot better than I did a week ago.
Okay, all right. It's great to hear that a finale can help you do that and kind of change your mind about things especially when a finale does like a big reveal kind of thing. I feel like the big reveal kind of happened at the end of last week's episode, but we got a lot of the repercussion of that big reveal and further progression of that big reveal into this episode. So I can absolutely see what you're talking about. You did make an interesting point though, and it's something that I didn't even realize, and you're absolutely right. We did not get a lot of zipline in this episode. Yeah. That was something I was really excited for when they were showing us previews of this series, was the whole zip lining from, building to building. We got a little bit of it in the pilot. And then we got a little bit more when they were escaping the bank, which I think was episode 3. but ever since then, we've gotten nothing.
Yeah, I was expecting them to chase after the car in this episode via zip lines, but no, it didn't happen.
I'm kind of disappointed by that, but at the same time, the story wasn't. It makes me realize as well that the story was engaging enough that I didn't think about that. So there's that.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until I was making my notes, and I was like, "What do I want for season 2?" And then I was like, "Oh, zip lines!
More zip lines." I want zip lines. I want human trebuchets. I want all kinds of slingshots. Like, I want as much as possible to travel these rooftops. Randy, you haven't been on since season 1. What has been your thought process as far as the show? Has it gotten you? I know you were a fan. If I remember correctly, you were a fan of the pilot, as was I. Has your excitement stayed the same? Has it lessened? How's it been?
So I'd say the first episode I was at like a 95%. I'm like all in on this. I'm loving it. It's great. I'd say by the end I only dipped to maybe like an 80. I'm like, all right, yeah, there's some things in it that I wasn't loving, but I'm still like excited for the next episode to come out. And especially at the end of this episode, I was like, oh no, what, really? I have to wait for season 2? It's like I could have used a couple more episodes. So I wanted more, which I think is a good sign.
Yeah. And Karen, how about you? How has your excitement stayed towards this? Because I know you were on, was it episode 4?
2.
Oh,
episode 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
They all went together.
The early ones.
Yeah. I feel like it's like waxed and waned. Like I started out being suspicious and like cautiously, going into the season. And then episode 2 really made me excited. And then, like Randy, I'm kind of dipping. I feel like some of it meandered a bit. I didn't realize about the zip lines either, but I do like that they went to the tunnels because New York City is so much about not just the heights, but the depths of, they have a subterranean culture with the subways, right? So it was kind of cool that we explored the tunnels as well. But I mean, I think that I might be in the minority thinking that like we could have told this story in like 4 or 5 episodes and condensed a few things or even excised a few characters. But I'm still, excited to see what happens next. I might be lying if I said I wasn't fatigued a bit by Negan and Maggie's story, but they are introducing new elements, especially in this finale. So it could be interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned, particular characters that we probably could have taken out of this, and we all know you're talking about Pearly, so it's okay.
No.
Because I felt the same way, and this is kind of diving into the episode itself, but I feel like he was nothing more than a seed for the second season. He really had no purpose to season 1. He was more just a seed planted to kind of grow a little bit of a branch leading into the second season, which if they didn't get renewed for a second season would have meant that Pearly was a complete waste of a character. So
although I think he was, I forget who was saying he was a fill-in for the viewer. Yeah. And I think in the Croats stadium situation, he was our eyes into the way his operation was working. We weren't going to get that through like Maggie or Negan or anybody like that. It had to be a third party who could go in and be neutral and see how things worked, so we could see how intense and scary the Croat was. Because by the time Negan and Maggie get there, they're essentially shutting up shop and moving along. So that's the only other thing I can think of that he was useful for.
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
But they could have also had us follow like a parrot, and like the parrot could have landed in there, and we could have also gotten the same thing. So,
well, they could have just given us the view from the inside as well, just through another one of his like underlings.
Yeah,
view. Like there didn't have to be a person handcuffed to the bars in that suite. It could have just been the Croat was upset that this guy didn't like served him tainted meat, and then he bashed his head and threw him over. Like, it didn't have to be anything. The only thing it added was that scene inside of the octagon that we got a little bit later.
Yep.
With Pearly's character.
Well, Pearly is now the link to New Babylon fighting against the Dama, right?
Well, that's
So
what
I'm jumping to the very end.
Well, that's what I meant, but when I said that Pearlie is a seed for the second season, and that's really the only purpose that he kind of stood for in this series so far, was the kind of that he had to be there to set up that link between New Babylon and New York. He is the
and
they gave him a lot of
they gave him a lot of exposition, so it sort of saddled his character with a heavy load of being like, new, opposed to our heroes, and spouting all kinds of exposition all the time. It's a lot for a new character.
Yeah, and it's gonna pose the question too, because the interesting, and you're right, we're kind of jumping to the end with this, but again, it's the conversation going the way it is. It kind of sets up the whole. It's going to make Pearlie a more interesting character going into season 2, because now he's going to have the inner debate within himself as to who is he going to side with. He knows that Negan isn't exactly the person he thought he was. He sees the shades of gray that Negan sits in, but now he's seeing there's also a darker side to these people that he works for New Babylon, in what their plan is initially going to be. So who does he side with? Does he side with Negan? Does he side with New Babylon? It's going to complicate Pearlie's character a little bit, but that's going to make his character more interesting.
That's one of my notes, is literally, will Pearlie become more interesting in season 2?
It's a good note. But that said, let's jump into the actual discussion of the episode. Who wants to go first? What is something that somebody kind of wants to bring up, and we can dive into that?
I might have a point that leads us into the beginning of the episode, because I was actually talking about Ginny when I was saying people that we could have taken out.
Oh, okay.
So, and we start with...
Hey, at least she got to talk.
She had one job, and all she said was, "I want." But she could have just said liar about Maggie, but no shade to the actress or anything. But... yeah, and then I also know that 75% of communication is nonverbal, so it's okay. But I think Kara was saying last week that she literally had no voice to defend herself, or had any voice, so that it would make Negan more, palatable, and he could say it, defend himself and justify himself. So we can just start with her. I feel like she was only there to throw viewers off the scent of Negan's motivation to team up with Maggie, because she was his leverage, right? Maggie promised to take care of Ginny, which she does at the end. But
does she, though? Because it's more Pearlie that is the one that takes the offer to take her back. It's not Maggie.
But then Maggie,
Maggie tucking her into bed with the dino at
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, and not to derail already, but in that bedroom, why were so many candles lit while she was asleep?
I know.
Alice, blow out those candles.
Fire hazard.
What are you doing?
Maggie lives dangerously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I maintain that Ginny is just a prop to kind of soften Negan's character, just like Annie and his unborn child was in the main series. And I feel like we could have totally transferred her function to Herschel, because Negan feels guilty about killing her father, right? And that could have been transferred to Herschel, and we could have had more scenes with Herschel and Negan there. But and I feel like we could have reached the same conclusions and the same twists about Maggie's betrayal, just showing Maggie going in and out of hallucinations with the methane. So she wasn't really needed there. And I had another point, but so we know that Negan pushes her away to protect her by saying that he killed her father. And I'm still not exactly sure if he's lying about killing her father, but I am sure.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, but I am positive that he is lying about having her be a debt to him, because he actually does care for her.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, he said that to push her away.
Oh yeah, I mean, and
it works.
And it's very hard. You definitely feel for Negan in that moment too, because you can see how hurt he is at the fact that that's something that he had to do.
Right.
if anybody's been listening to the coverage since the beginning, Negan killing her father being one of the 5 men he killed, was something I called back in like episode 3 or like episode 3 or episode 4. And I just, when that moment happened, I didn't second guess it. I didn't say, oh, well, maybe he's just telling her this to push her away. The moment he said, I killed your dad, I literally screamed, called it. And because I do firmly believe that is the case. I'm not somebody who is second guessing that, because it's something I wouldn't put past Negan to do.
It wraps up the Ginny story in a neat circle, right? It's like, oh, that's what, and it's related to, the people that Pearlie's trying to avenge, and like it all sort of adds up together. Yeah, nicely.
And I kind of do see it when he says you were a debt. I do think that was initially the case. I think he did take on Ginny kind of because there was guilt there that he ended up murdering her father. He left her alone, and like he didn't want that to be, because he does have the soft spot for children. And I feel like that was initially the case, but it did not stay the case. And he definitely did start to develop feelings for her over the couple months that they were together. And so when he said that to her, it wasn't true at that moment.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that movie, Harry and the Hendersons. Have you guys seen that?
That's what I have in my notes too. But get out of here. We don't love you no more.
Yeah. It's, it's a trope. It shows up in lots of movies. The like, you don't even want to be with me. You don't know me. I'm a bad person. And that's supposed to show you that he's actually a good person because he's pushing her away for her own good. I don't know. It's a little trite, in my opinion. He's still a jerk.
I will say that this moment, and I might be in the minority here, so forgive me if I am. That moment with Ginny and Negan gave me big issues with the particular character, and it actually wasn't Negan or Ginny. That moment gave me big issues with Maggie, because leading up to this moment, we see that she finds Ginny's dino. She's ready to burn the dino. She says flat out, she freely admits at one point early on that Ginny would have been a distraction for Negan. That's why she didn't tell him she was going to burn the dino. But then she sees in this moment that that's not the case at all. He was still committed to helping Maggie. He was still committed to rescuing Herschel. And he put his own heartbreak in front of them to lead Ginny away, to tell Ginny she had to go so that he could, like, he told her, you don't want to be with me. I'm not who you think I am. Admitted to killing her father to send Ginny away so that he could still stay with Maggie and rescue Herschel. But yet, and Maggie sees this and realizes this in this moment, but yet she still doesn't even Negan says later on, like, it frightens you that we would be good together and we could have done this together. And it kind of made me mad that even after seeing that Negan was willing to sacrifice Ginny himself, or his connection to Ginny himself, she still committed to turning Negan in. And
I think she was having a lot of doubts, and right up until the moment when she and Negan lock eyes and she knows that he knows, and then they fight, I think she was questioning herself that entire time, and she might have come to the conclusion, like, I should come clean with Negan and work with him to rescue Herschel. She might have gotten there if he hadn't sort of called her on her bullshit. It was a timing thing, because the look that went over her face when she heard him say that to Ginny, and when he was like, "You're just a debt," like, Maggie's face fell, and she had this, and she looked down like she was in serious self-doubt. And I really enjoyed the nuance in that scene. I thought it was kind of impressive the way Lauren Cohan played it. I think she was really considering, like, coming clean with him before he turned,
But even then, even in that moment when he kind of turns to her and says, I love how I said I'm taking a back seat. Now I kind of feel like I'm hijacking the conversation.
No, go. That's good.
I like even in that moment when Negan calls her on it, like he realizes what the actual plan is. He sees it in her eyes. She's still the one that instigates the attack. She's still the one that attacks first. Negan was never going to attack her. Even in the moments when she attacked him, he never attacked her back. He ran.
He defended himself.
And he defended himself. He was never going to leave Herschel without another parent. That shows the growth in Negan. So, and that to me still kind of shows the downslope in Maggie, because even though he called her out on it and admitted he knows what the truth is, she could have come clean right then and there.
Yeah.
And then they worked together, but she still instigated the attack.
Yeah.
Which was also interesting. If she's supposed to bring him to the Croat, that she was like, oh, I'll stab him a couple times first. It's like, I think he wants him alive. Like, to stab the guy and then hand him over might not have been a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
He got over that stabbing so fast.
Yes, he did.
It's like Jack Bauer.
I feel like this whole episode is Maggie coming to the realization that she fucked up, because when they were together in the ambulance with the Croat, like the Croat says that he took advantage of the both of them, right? Taking advantage of her vengeance on Negan. So she realizes that she's been played too. And then during the hostage exchange, there's this moment where the Croat's like, we want the same things. And then, like Penny said, Lauren Cohen's acting there, like you can tell in her eyes that she's changed, that she doesn't want the same things that the Croat does anymore, which is to turn in Negan. But it's already kind of too late to turn back. And so it sets up season 2. But yeah, I was totally frustrated with Maggie this episode too, especially since she just opened up about Macy's with him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, she's chasing him and fighting him.
I guess what would be the alternative plan for them if she didn't hand over Negan? Would they just have to go in like guns blazing? Because it didn't seem like the Croat was just like, I want to talk to Negan.
If they had still gone through with like the trade, except that he was part of it, they could have like smuggled in weapons and like overpowered the Croat really easily if they teamed up.
Yeah.
Once they got him away from his other, minions.
Yeah. I guess from Maggie's point of view, that might be too dangerous for Herschel. Risky. It's like the level of risk there. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the choices made, but I feel like the option she basically had was like, she discovered this guy is not as bad a guy as she thought, but she'd probably still prefer to trade a guy who's not as bad as she thought for her son. Right, so I could see where she might be like, she might start to feel more bad about it, but I don't know why she would change her motivation or her plan just because of that new piece of information.
That was actually one of my favorite moments of this episode, is when Negan calls Maggie out and he knows the truth. He realizes like it was all just a ploy, to get Herschel. One of my favorite moments in him calling her out isn't that he's calling out the plan. He's calling out Maggie when he says like, you just can't get over it, can you? And as a viewer, you're kind of like, oh, like you're an asshole. She's never going to get over that. And then he turns around, he says, and you shouldn't. And I'm like, okay, like he knows where he stands in Maggie's eyes, and he's right. She should never get over what he did. And then he follows it up by saying like, what scares her the most is the fact that they work well together, and she doesn't want to admit that. And I think that's kind of what the whole episode plays out is, you're right. Those moments in the ambulance when she has the knife to Negan's throat, she's hearing the Croat like reveal everything about how she get played was well. I think she's starting to realize in herself, a little too late at this point, that she does work well with Negan. This could have gone other ways. And then by the end of the episode, when we get that holy shit stylistic dual screenshot of the two of them, like that is like, they're so like their facial expressions are similar, but they are speaking two very different things at the same time. And Maggie's is kind of screaming like, not to use a Lost line, but I have to go back. because she's I think she's, in my opinion, she's realizing at that moment that Negan was right. And when she says she has to put it to bed, I don't think it necessarily means she's got to kill Negan. I think she's she kind of has to either forgive him or accept what he did. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Also, I mean, she's looking at the picture of the Dama that Herschel has drawn and realizing there's more to the situation than she knows. Right? Yeah. That's part of it as well. Like, that's going through her head, is like, who is this woman? How does this affect the outcome of what happened in New York? And like, who is she to Herschel? Why didn't Herschel even tell me about her? Like, we had the whole trip home. He could have told me, but he didn't.
Yeah, and he kept a pretty big secret as well with what happened to him while he was there.
And
just
his
toe being removed, which made me wonder, because the Dama says something along the lines to once Herschel finally got comfortable with her, he started to talk. So I'm kind of wondering if there's been like a seed planted in Herschel where he's kind of got a little bit of an allegiance to her now.
If I remember correctly,
he's like a sleeper agent.
If I remember correctly, there was another person on this podcast who predicted back in episode 2 or 3 that Herschel going home was going to be a lot more complicated than Maggie thought it was good. Who was? Oh, that was also me.
Yeah, Ben, you did. You called it.
I had called it was the Croat that had probably gotten to his head, but that was before we knew the Dama. So, I mean, I was still right in the situation, just the wrong person.
Yeah, and Maggie got him. Maggie got him home pretty easily too. So,
yeah, but he was still a major pain in the ass in the truck.
Yeah, and he's probably gonna go back. Would be my prediction.
You just got rescued. Your mom just traded a person for you. Show a little bit of compassion, show a little bit of gratitude. Come on.
Although the thing that he does mention, it does feel like she's always looking for Negan over his shoulder and always preparing for Negan. And I'm guessing when he was in the cell, somebody said your mother's here to get you. And when he walks out, he sees his mom with Negan, and he's probably like, seriously? This is supposed to be about me.
That's totally the Dama's influence. That is absolutely the Dama's influence, that she put it into Herschel's mind that his mother is making Negan a bigger issue than it needs to be, and a bigger issue than Herschel. So...
I can't wait to see what went on between Herschel and the Dama. I hope we get flashbacks in season 2, because did she pull the whole, we would really appreciate you if you were here with us line of, brainwashing on him? Or there's so many ways you can manipulate a kid, especially a kid who's, isolated from everyone he knows, and a teenager who's angry at his mother. And she's a theater person. She's used to lying and manipulating. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question I'm going to pose to the three of you, because I don't know the answer, and I'm very curious of it myself, but I'm curious where you stand. When it comes to Herschel's toe, was this freely given, or was this taken in the beginning and then he was sort of brainwashed?
Yeah, I was
trying
to determine that too. The fact that he didn't tell Maggie feels like he's hiding something else about that. But the other thing that could have happened is he could have had that happen with the Croat, and then playing good cop, bad cop when he met the Dama, she was like, how could this happen? Type of thing, and brings him in and cares for him. So he's been through something scary, but now he's with somebody that he can feel comfortable with and feel safe with. So
a alternate mother.
Yeah.
In the Dama. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. You're the good cop, bad cop thing.
It looked like it had been a while. The toe looked, or the spot where the toe had been, looked pretty well healed. So maybe that happened at the beginning.
That's that's my initial thought too.
Yeah. I would, like we said, she's a stand-in for Maggie because he doesn't really have or respect his maternal figure right now. And I think she did pull, like, he has a chance now, Herschel, to tell his side of the story, because all this time, Lucy's touched upon this in episode 2, that he's hearing the myth of what happened to his father, like, going around. Everybody's talking about it, but he can't really speak to it because he didn't have any firsthand experience. Like, he probably feels pressure that he has to live up to the legend of his saintly father, and that, like, Negan is this terrible person, but that's not his experience of Negan. Like, his experience of Negan is Negan did admit to him that he's a bad person in season 11. Excuse me. So,
but Negan also helped him and saved his life.
Yeah, exactly. So he's probably really conflicted and frustrated that this is the version that's the myth that's going around.
And I imagine also when Negan walked past Herschel and was like, "Good to see you, kid," I expected Herschel to be like, "Screw you, dude. Like, it's not good to see you. This is one of the worst days of my life."
Well, I mean, maybe that's part of it, though. Maybe that's something we're going to find out a little bit later on, is that maybe, because if the Dama did put this impression in Herschel's mind with the opportunity that maybe Herschel could come back on his own, she would have had to know that the ultimate plan was for Negan to be there and for Negan to be in charge. So maybe part of this brainwashing or this impression and these impressions that she put in Herschel's mind are that Herschel isn't as bad as you think he is. Your mother is making him out to be so much worse than he is, and almost kind of putting Negan up on a little bit of a pedestal above his own mother.
Yeah.
So that when Herschel does return, if he does end up going back to New York City on his own, we might see like Herschel working with Negan.
Yep. The possibilities.
Very possible.
Which would be very interesting.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It is heartbreaking to me that Glenn's son, and Maggie are at odds, and that, he might resent his father because of this pressure. And it's just so sad because we all loved Glenn so much.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, it would be a double-edged sword, because you're absolutely right. It would be horrible to see that kind of situation, like Herschel looking up to the man who killed his father rather than his own father, and looking down on his mother because of the impressions that bad people have given him. But at the same time, we kind of also know now that Negan is trapped in this situation that he's in now, having to take charge because they are holding Herschel over his head. And I think that alone is another point that kind of shows the growth in Negan, because if the old Negan wouldn't have given a shit about Herschel, he wouldn't have cared. But the fact that he is willing to be held hostage by the Dama and these people purely because of Herschel and the threat of Herschel, of harming Herschel, I think shows growth in Negan.
And is a parallel to kind of what was going on with him and Ginny as well, where he was doing a lot of things to protect her as well. So it's they're trying to develop within his character that he is somebody who will put himself at risk for kids at this point.
It's the same thing with Ginny. It's the debt that needs to be paid. Is he's going to do this to protect Herschel because he's already done enough to that kid.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of interesting that in part of the show, Negan is now having to confront all of the children of the fathers he's killed. Like multiple kids in this show have had their fathers killed by Negan, supposedly. And he has become like a de facto caretaker for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do we go from here?
Well, I have just a sort of side note on that, which is just to point out that Herschel's situation is a great example of generational trauma, which is a concept that's fairly recent in the zeitgeist, right? And what it means is that, loosely, that trauma is handed down in families either through the behavior of traumatized parents towards their children, or, and there have been studies about this, actual changes in physiology and DNA that reflect the trauma that has happened to ancestors. So the studies, the ones I've read about anyway, were of Holocaust survivors and how that trauma was handed down to generations after them in their bodies, but also epigenetically. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I had forgotten that word. But also, in the behavior of parents, right? Parents, people who have been through trauma, who probably have PTSD, are not going to be the most healthy parents naturally unless they go through some therapy and healing. And then their kid is going to be traumatized. And then the next kid is going to be traumatized. And Herschel just basically says it to Maggie. He's like, you're not a mother. You don't see me. You're not mothering me. You're just like obsessed with protecting me and getting vengeance on Negan. Mm-hmm. And I just really felt for him in that moment. I mean, I know he's like sort of a bratty teen, but he's right that Maggie's trauma and PTSD has prevented her from being like fully present as a mother. And she admits it at the end, but it's hard to win back your teenager when they're mad at you. It's going to take a lot more work than just saying, I'm going to finish things with Negan, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, that was a little vague.
It's a little ambiguous.
She should think I assume she believes at this point that he's either dead or being tortured by the Croat, right? She doesn't know that he's been chosen to be like the Prince of Manhattan. So I don't know what she thinks she's going to do.
Yep.
Like to finish it, like find his body. I don't know.
Yeah, especially being that vague with a teenager. Like, it seems like she needed to come in there with like a solid plan of like, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what that means, which it's probably partly that the writers are still figuring out what that means, but yeah.
And also, like, if I were Herschel, I wouldn't want to hear, I'm going to finish things with Negan so I can finally let it go. I would want to hear, I'm letting go of Negan so I can spend time with you the way you need as a mother. And that's not what she said. She's still in her own head and not really present with.
And even worse, if she does think he's dead, it's like she's literally just going to put herself in danger to potentially bring back a body or something like that. Or
what does that even mean? It's so weird.
But go ahead, Karen.
Oh no, I had two subpoints. Just to piggyback off of what you just said, Penny, is that I can relate to Maggie. Literally last week at this time, I was at a party. And at my Hollywood parties, we talk about trauma. So I was literally talking about trauma with a friend and how some people fetishize their trauma. And I want to be really careful here because I'm not a licensed therapist or a clinician or anything. And there's no right or wrong way to experience or process your trauma. You don't have to address it if you don't want to. But I was talking about how some people fetishize their trauma because it's familiar, right? It's comforting, and the pain can be addictive because it's the enemy that we know. And it's not a new experience. We hold on to the pain because a new experience would mean the unknown, and the unknown is scary and uncontrollable. So that kind of applies to Maggie here. Like, she can't let go of her anger with Negan. It's kind of easier for her to convince herself that he's evil and unchangeable or static, and it gives her something and someone tangible and concrete to direct all her mistakes and all her her rage at and her fear at. So I could relate to Maggie that way, but I could also really relate to Herschel when he said, "You don't see me," because I don't want to get too personal, but growing up as a sick kid in the hospital and having to constantly go back to the hospital, I feel like my parents also like have that need to protect me. So they would also be like, you need to eat this, you need to do that, you need to sleep earlier, whatever. And that's all well intentioned. But like, I feel like sometimes they see me still as a sick patient and not as a person, So that's like an identity that and it's all well intentioned, like I said, but
it also reminds me of the way that for some people the strongest relationship they have in their life is not a good one, right? Like Maggie doesn't appear to have friends or a new husband or anyone that she's close with. We haven't seen any evidence of that, right?
Yeah.
Everyone she loved before has been killed. And then it doesn't seem like in the last 10 years she's developed like new people to love in her life. And so really the strongest emotional connections she has are Herschel, Glenn's memory, and Negan.
Yeah.
And I was reminded of at my old job, there was this one partner at the law firm who I did not get along with well, and who literally told me that he didn't like me and then I rub him the wrong way.
Whoa.
But then at every like law firm social event, he would like find me and corner me for conversation. And I was complaining about it to a friend, and he was like, "Oh, you're probably the closest thing he has to an emotional relationship."
Wow.
And it was like a mind-blowing moment for me. And I was like, "You're right," because he like bragged about how cold and distant he was with his own children. And so I was like, "You're right. Like I am his strongest relationship, at least at the firm." Ew, I don't want to be his strongest relationship. I hate this man. But it reminded me a little bit of that. Like Maggie and Negan have a really strong bond rooted in,
Trauma. Yeah.
a mix of things, right? There's like hatred, anger, fear, but also respect.
Yeah.
And then like this learned experience of how they work well together. It's complicated, but it's a strong bond, even though it's a negative one.
Well, and I
Right.
think that kind of plays into the ending of the episode as well, with Maggie saying like she needs to see this happen, she needs to see this finished, and I think that's because I think she kind of realizes that connection she has to Negan, and without knowing his fate at that time, because you're right, she leaves the city, she doesn't know if she left him for dead, she doesn't know if the crowd's going to kill him, she doesn't know if they're going to praise him, whatever it is, until she sees his fate for herself. That's always going to be an open-ended relationship with her, and it's going to haunt her forever. Even if they if they killed Negan and she never sees his body, it's going to haunt her until she knows ultimately what his fate is going to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's part
Unless
of
they have a really good therapist in the apocalypse.
as long as his name's not Pearly, I mean, it's fine. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good points that were just made too in that negative connection, even though like it is a connection between the two of them, it is a negative connection. And it's something I really didn't put together, in that you made a really good point, in that the connections that Maggie has at this point are, as you mentioned, Herschel, the memory of Glenn, and Negan, because we don't know anybody else. Her father's gone, her sisters are gone. Everybody else from the Commonwealth is off on their own. She really is isolated. Even though she's around people, she's isolated. So it's,
Well, she's a nomad too, so it's hard to put down any roots.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, a small note on that I'm questioning is the bricks. Is that actually New Hilltop, or is that just what Maggie called it to Negan, and it's actually a whole new location that's nowhere near Hilltop and the other people? Because at this point, she's been deceptive.
She said to him, it's the same people in a new place, but we haven't seen anyone we recognize.
No. And the fact
we don't know that Nina woman, right?
No. And just the fact that it's so much closer to New York, and the Croat knew about it, and they referred to it as the bricks instead of New Hilltop, made me wonder if she lied to Negan and called the place New Hilltop so that he would feel comfortable leaving Ginny there.
Well, she never actually calls it New Hilltop. That was something that we called it on the podcast. She never addresses it. She just says that it's the same people from Hilltop. She never calls it New Hilltop. It's never actually named until she calls it the bricks later.
Yeah. All right.
So I don't, but I mean, to the point too, like that Nina that we've seen, she's really the only person we've seen at the bricks. Everybody else has just kind of been a background character. So I don't think they've really explored it enough to show us whether or not this is actually the same people from Hilltop, or if this is just a complete.
I mean,
live
who's
location.
left from Hilltop? Like everybody was killed.
Elijah.
Earl's dead. Alden's dead.
Maybe
Kara's dead. Jesus is dead.
Elijah and Lydia should be Hilltop,
Yep.
right?
Yep. And then
Right. But like neither of them were like the old school Hilltop, right? They're like
Right.
new
They're
school,
new.
but yeah.
Cal might still be out there somewhere. We never
Oh,
found
yeah.
out what happened to Cal, so maybe he'll
Fake
just pop
Glenn.
up in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, because pretty much everybody else is either dead or went to the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there really is no Hilltop left
Yeah.
for their. Maybe it's just something she called. I mean, maybe there were a few stragglers that went with her to this new location.
Mhm.
I don't know.
We were joking that Herschel might be a sleeper agent for the Dama, but we know that the Croat was promising the bricks to Tommaso and Amaya. So does he have any spies within the bricks right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to have been able to very effectively surround them and kidnap Herschel.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe he had an inside person or two.
Although the flashbacks we see of Herschel being kidnapped almost look like they take place within the city or within like it didn't look quite like the bricks. And granted, it looks like it's sort of a dream she's having, but
Those flashbacks of the Croat coming in and taking Herschel they have a very similar feel to Negan and everybody on their knees.
Mhm.
Yep.
The
Same
fog
lighting.
and darkness. Yeah.
It's the very similar feeling and that eeriness to that scene.
Mhm.
And I think that's done intentionally.
Yeah.
It's kind of to explore more of the trauma that Maggie has gone through, and how it sits in her mind very similarly. These two different incidents.
Mhm.
Right.
So a point I had that I wanted to bring up was the overall plan that has been enacted by the Doma and the Croat. And I think this is kind of where some of my percentage points for the show has dropped down a little bit, because I'm not a fan of the like, there's this one person out there and they're the only person who can do this thing.
Yeah.
Like, so their whole plan is to track down Negan because he built this unbelievable community and he's the only person who can unite New York, the entire city of New York.
You are the chosen one.
Yeah. That storyline in these types of things always feel a little like nobody else could beat somebody with a baseball bat. Like he's charismatic, but like she also seems to have already pulled together quite a gathering of people. And then the steps they had to go through just to get to making that plan. So essentially the Croat had to have been like just bragging and talking about Negan to her a lot and being like, this guy's great. He was so cool and he like commanded forces, and she had to have listened to it enough to believe this guy was real. And then she had to believe that he was somebody that could be found.
Well, she even says to Negan after she excuses the Croat from the room.
Yeah,
and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact phrase, but she says to Negan like, "It's nice to see that you aren't someone that was completely created by his psychosis."
Yeah,
you know. In other words, I'm happy to see you actually exist.
Yeah.
Because you're right, he probably has been just nothing but high praise on Negan because the Croat does hold Negan on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he seems to have he refers to him and the Doma as mommy and daddy. Dama, yes. As mother and father, which is creepy. Really interesting that he and Herschel are having these parental issues, essentially.
It's funny because I said last week's episode when we got introduced to the Dama and the whole idea of the possibility that they were there to recruit Negan and not to kill Negan, like they were questioning like Kara and they were saying like what would be the reason for that, and I jokingly said, well, every queen needs a king. And then the Croat says like calls them refers to them as mommy and daddy, and I'm like, ooh,
yeah,
my idea is kind of cringeworthy now. I don't know if I like this.
Did it remind anyone else, the chemistry between the Dama and the Croat, of Pamela Milton and Lance Hornsby?
Yep, yes. I was going to say that.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, it's Lance 2.0. Because he's all like, let's all sit down. And she's like, that'll be all. Let's just get out.
Yeah.
Close the door on your way out.
I do really love the idea of introducing a big bad like the Croat, and then in like one quick motion, they essentially are like, no, he is nothing in this world, really. Like,
Well,
his whole
yeah.
stadium setup feels like she was just like, you know what, you can go play for like a week. You have a task, and he went out and he like builds up this thing to make it seem like he's the one in control there, but the second he's in front of the person who's actually in control, he covers his wounds, he like makes himself up just right, and he's just a cowering guy in front of her, and it's really impressive to do that kind of flip.
Well, that was one of the things I said a little ways back too, was that if this show was ever going to go past one season, the Croat couldn't be the big bad of future seasons. We needed, and the reference that I used was, we needed a Moriarty for Sherlock Holmes. We needed to see that somebody was there actually pulling the strings behind everything. And that's kind of what we got in the Dama. She is the one that is pulling the strings. She is the leader of all these different factions, and she wants to pull other factions into it to make their kingdom even bigger. She legitimately is a queen of New York at this moment, and trying to be a bigger queen than she is. That is the kind of villain that you need for future seasons, because now you have underlings that could be temporary big bads of the season until you go to end the series, and then you take on the queen. You know, that's how you win the kingdom.
Yeah, but I still. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I still kind of like Lance and Pamela. I still feel like the Croat is a little more interesting to me than the Dama, because he's, you know, has more colors and textures. He is unpredictable, and he has this like lyrical intonation with his accent. But she's like literally I don't know if it's a stereotype, but like she's pouring the bourbon and handing it to her subordinate. So it's almost tropey. I just feel like he delivered his monologues a little more interestingly. So it didn't feel like an exposition dump. Whereas when she started talking, I just heard the Adults and Peanuts like going like, wah, 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 like do stuff for me or else.
Last week was rough to take when she was all, you know, oh, so you've let the hero leave the stage and it's the first act, like all the sort of tortured play metaphors. I was like, we get it. You like theater. Like
I do agree with you though, Karen, and I apologize to all the horny for Hornsby people that are out there. I think the Crow. Yeah, sorry, Lucy. I love you, but sorry. I do feel like the Croat is a more complex character than Lance, because he is, like you mentioned, he's so much more unpredictable. He feels like he is a character who could snap at any moment, and probably has multiple times. You know,
but he's also kind of a genius. That methane thing is amazing.
Yeah.
That is a very smart plan, and I actually like the idea that is the reason why they want Negan. They know they have a valuable resource. They want to protect it.
Yeah.
Negan is the person to bring everybody together to protect that resource. I agree with you, Randy, it is a trope that is so overused.
And just their tracking him down seemed a little far-fetched, which I'll accept it. I still enjoyed the show, but that was the one part where they start explaining it a little bit. Like the Croat says to Negan, we were untouchable. No one could ever take anything away from us. And then he explains that he heard from, I'm assuming, a past savior named Jerome, he's mentioned a few times, must have told him that Negan was essentially defeated and stopped, despite the Croat saying he was an unstoppable force. So just in that statement, he's negating the thing that makes Negan so incredible. And then he finds out about the widow, and then he somehow tracks down where the widow is, assuming that she'll still know where Negan is, assuming that Negan's still alive. And somehow he tracks her down And even us as viewers, we didn't know Maggie was alive for a while. So it's quite a jump to be like, she's still out there. So just, it felt like a tiny bit too convoluted for me to just be like, all right, I'm going to give that to you. But I still liked it. I still enjoyed it. It's just one nitpick.
And not only that, but you kind of have to, if you backtrack as far as this plan goes, you kind of realize that Negan kind of put himself in the situation by killing the magistrate and the 5 other guys. Because had he not done that, he would have never been wanted by the marshals of New Babylon. The Croat would have never seen the wanted poster, and none of this would have ever happened.
Yep.
This whole chain of events would have never happened. Negan put himself in this situation by protecting his own. Which again, totally understandable. Not
avenging his own.
Yes. Well,
avenging is different than protecting.
True.
I think.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, like, totally understandable, but not forgivable in the actions that he made. But going back to a previous point too, jumping back to some of the points we were making about Pearlie, in that moment where the leader of New Babylon is talking to Pearlie and she's making those instances like they have a resource that we need, using the cigar metaphor on, on central heating and needing that resource. If you go back to that story, I feel like we've kind of already gotten a little bit of a prediction as to which side Pearlie is going to fall. And it's because he's lied to this woman in saying that he shot Negan.
Yeah.
They're going to realize he lied.
Yep.
Yeah.
When they see Negan as kind of running things in New York. And that's going to cause some friction.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of people, them, Maggie, who show up in New York expecting to find a corpse, and they're going to find Negan like at a disco or something. Like he's just going to be having the best time of his life, wearing a crown most likely, and
oh God, with another harem.
Yep. Oh no.
It's going to be a really, like, I'm predicting like this totally complex and not confusing, but really interesting dynamic going into season 2, in that we're going to see a Pearlie and Negan versus, or Pearlie and Maggie versus Negan and Herschel.
Yeah.
Herschel being coerced into it, Negan being on that side against his will, and Pearlie kind of being forced onto the side that he's on because of all this. Like, it's going to be such an interesting dynamic going into the second season.
I have a point about the Dama and what she wants Negan to do.
Okay.
But it's preceded by a really long rant about Negan.
Go for it.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
It's really long, so hopefully, and I want you guys to push back and maybe challenge me, because I'm sure that I'm a Maggie apologist and probably
Karen, you've been listening to this podcast since the beginning of episode 1, right?
You're gonna push back.
You know that if I have a feeling, I will push back.
Okay. And I don't know if it's like super duper obvious either, so maybe you guys can call me out on it. But it's what Kara said last week about the fine line between good character development and good writing versus manipulative and contrived writing. Where the character should be driving the story.
I got to stop you. No, I'm just kidding.
Instead of retrofitting or changing the character to fit the plot or an agenda. And I like that they're playing all the characters true to their humanity and true to their flaws. Because Maggie has a multitude of flaws, but fans are so quick to jump on her, when she's lying this time, or when she's sacrificing Ginny for Herschel. People are disappointed in Maggie. But I don't think the question we've been asking is the right one. We've been asking whether or not Negan's story is good or complex, and he absolutely is a complex character. I think the question that I'm asking, and that gives me pause about Negan as a whole, is why do we excuse his sins more than other people's? Why do we expect Maggie to course correct her mistakes about making this Faustian bargain with the Croat when Negan doesn't correct his hubris and keeps gaslighting himself, Maggie, and the audience? And gaslighting is his character flaw, right? And he has yet to own up to it. And Lucy addressed this as well in episode 2, that he should just admit that he relished being a monster and that he was entertained by assaulting all these women in season 7 to, do whatever, kiss him and dress in skimpy dresses for him. And why doesn't he admit that instead of just saying that everybody else is misinterpreting his actions? Because real character growth would mean that he recognizes his mistakes and grows from it, admits it. That shows growth, maturity, and respect for others. Otherwise, it's kind of insulting, like he's trying to, say that he didn't do it. And, that's the hero's journey. That's